of these games, and in comparison to Sneaky and Lemonation, who are simply put dominating many of their lanes, it's a difficult position to be in. Nobody's surprised by Riven Van.
Yeah, and specifically when they're trying to shut down Spartan, it reflects the rest of the team, because Don't Mash Me, with those 50 kills, it's the least of 80 carries in the LCS, and Don't Mash Me was one of the biggest threats of Coast back in the spring split, so he as well isn't even getting focused for shutdown, needs to be able to pick it up.
So we'll see what they do decide to lock in. Picks and bans has gone incredibly quickly thus far. Riven, Nami, and Shen taken off the table from Cloud9. In response, Coast had taken out Rumble, Jason, Twisted Fate. So a lot of the priority bans, the Nami one catching me a little off guard.
Yeah, we did see Edward have his perfect game on Nami 0016 earlier, and it's definitely, like we talked about, an emerging top support pick, specifically in Europe and also in Korea, and now making its way here to North America. But it's all in smartness for Cloud9, right? Because they got the 2 bans targeted Zion Spartan, and then they had 1 left to throw around.
Ashe and Zyra are up and available, and I wonder if this is the talking point for Cloud9 right now. They've got that Elise. Zach has been taken away. The Zed's been locked in for Coast as well. And I wonder what they're thinking to themselves. Do we want to lock in that dual lane that's been working for them so well? And
this is going to tell us a lot about Cloud9's overall strategy, because in the games where they've had Ashe Zyra, they've had Rumble as well. And the way they can get away with having less damage, higher utility, is because Rumble just brings overwhelming damage if you can keep people on top of Equalizer. Without that option, instead having Elise in the top lane, it's great assassination single target damage, but it can't take as much advantage of the teamfight control that Ashe and Zyra provide. They might just go a different direction.
Gonna go a little bit different this time around, so not opting for that Zyra, even though it was up and available. We are gonna see Elimination on Thresh again for the second time today. He was running it earlier. I believe they also had a similar comp as well. They did have Ashe and Kennen, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, I believe
I think
you're
so.
right.
I think so, but my brain is a bit pressed right now.
It was the first game of the day. Now we're all the way to game 6.
It has been a long day already.
Stuck with us.
Been dramatic games as well. Dramatic games. Over on the other side for Team Coast, they have locked in that Sona for Daydreaming, and I've locked in Ezreal for Don't Mash Me. So they've got their dual lane secured.
And Don't Mash Me is good on Ezreal as well. He was actually the first one in North America to do the tier, like, blue Ezreal before people called it blue Ezreal. I'm just like, what's he building on that champion? Why would you build a tier on Ezreal? And it ended up working out and gaining such huge fame for North America.
So it worked in his favor. We'll see if he can up his game this time around. He's going to need to be a trendsetter, going to need to do something in this matchup to upset Cloud9. You can see Lemonation continually looking down at his notes, continually referring to the study, the planning and the prep for this one. And I would love to be inside the brain of one of these guys to hear, did they expect this? Was it anticipated? Now what do we do? What's next? And Cloud9 are really using this time to decide what they want to pick.
Elimination is the biggest of the theory crafters that plays for Cloud9. Alex Penn is also their analyst. So Cloud9's a team that employs an analyst in Alex Penn that helps them create these giant spreadsheets of information that Elimination is using to find these picks. And wasn't Sneaky the one who said he wanted to play Vayne and the team wouldn't let him?
Yes, that was the first video of the day where we sat down. I was going to say he's pulled a sneaky move, and after filming that with us and saying his team wouldn't let him pick it, his team has now let him pick it. So he's probably gone on a rampage, talked about the video and said, come on guys, I've done this promo thing, no one's going to expect it, let's pull out Vayne.
And this is a very non-Cloud9 AD carry, because they've come out in the past and said Sneaky does more with less than other AD carries in the LCS, which is why he fits so well on their team. Because Meteos likes taking a bunch of farm. Cloud9 also keeps farmed solo laners, which just diminishes Sneaky's farm, which is why he'll play, you know, Draven, who just had damage up front, or Ashe, who brings the utility. Vayne is someone who demands a lot of farm and her own section of the map, so I want to see how Cloud9 plays this.
We've been seeing every other team in the NALCS transitioning and moving into new things, new compositions, new ways of playing, and maybe this is just a slight skew on the standard for Cloud9. Maybe they want to give Sneaky some farm and try let him completely take control of a matchup.
And when we were talking to Meteos last week in one of our interviews, he was saying how Cloud9, even though they're taking it game to game, the biggest thing they're working on is their champion pools and the new champions, because they want to be ready for when the game changes or when teams start countering them. That Vayne pick could definitely be the start of it.
It's something we've heard them say multiple times, that they tend to play what is the strong champions right now, and I guess when you've got Elise, Vayne, Kennen, they still count as strong champions.
They still got their stuff. Let's be fair.
But it is slightly different to what we usually see from them. We'll see how well they pull this one off. We are loading up into the match. It is the final game of the day, which does, of course, feature Cloud9 on the blue side and Team Coast on the red side. Team Coast looking to bounce back from a losing spree, and We'll see if this is their game to do it.
Yeah, it's been a difficult turn this part in the season for Coast. They had a really promising start. I remember a very positive interview with Zion Spartan after one of their victories, thinking they were going to make a run for the top of the standings since Elements had really gotten them into a good regime, but things haven't necessarily panned out for them. They've had some tough losses. I feel like teams kind of cracked their strategy, and it's about reinventing themselves to be able to take on the rest of the league again.
We'll see if they've managed to do that in this particular matchup, as they've already put themselves in a defensive position. Got maybe a decent surround on Cloud9, but they're split. And these split engages don't usually work out all that well. Cloud9 get an aggressive ward down, deep ward down, and continue the pressure.
And that was a very brute force ward angle. Elimination dropping multiple wards there. Gonna definitely control where Nintendo X goes early, because Coast hasn't been able to put any extended ward pressure on anything for Cloud9 right now.
So we'll see how they decide to handle this one. Cloud9, they have walked themselves over a Team Coast ward. They've managed to invade on this blue buff of Team Coast. Team Coast will be aware of it. They put a ward down on top of yet another Coast ward. And I guess Coast, with a defensive positioning and defensive posture, have at least got a wealth of information to work with.
Yeah, and this could be very tense as they were walking towards each other. A whole bunch of pinging for not much action, and at the end of the day, Coast did get a ward onto the blue buff, so both junglers should have knowledge of one another.
Advantage Cloud9 as they get some damage down to Don't Mash Me without reply. That was the most exciting thing that happened during the course of the 2 minutes, but all of the vision for Cloud9, well, maybe help them a little bit more. The only ward they're stood on top of is on this blue buff, and they'll have full information of their opponents. Sneaky Elimination actually forcing Zion Spartan away from this bottom lane, looking like they were trying to set up a steal, but instead decided against it.
Yeah, and I really want to see now that the lane matchups have kind of been revealed to us from the wards, whether how Cloud9 decides to play this, because in the past we saw those awesome time graphs from cloth5.com where Meteos spends more time than anyone else in 3v1 push lanes, and he doesn't try to extend the laning phase like other junglers like Big Fat OP would, where they go into 2v2 and support their top laner. Meteos is already on the way into straight up counter jungling and straight up lane pushing, so Nasus already trying to take control.
And in terms of that, we actually heard Meteos talking about it, saying that he was on Zac and it didn't really work out in those 3v1s. Now he's on Nasus, who you've already highlighted as one of the strongest 3v1 lane pushes. Something's going to make Renekton's life particularly difficult if they go down there and throw that wither down on that giant crocodile.
And at this point, it's the Smite race. Who got that one?
We do see, looks like Meteos was able to take that one away. So stealing the blue buff from Nintendo X, he's already been gimped a little bit in his jungle, denied that experience and that buff.
And this immediately forces Nintendo X to go and hold. He actually expected Meteos to come down and 3v1 push it, but he's getting mind gamed a little bit, and it's just more farming time for Nasus.
Good decision making from Cloud9 at the very least to realize, hey, we're a little bit predictable in this one, you know. If people are noticing this, let's plan around it. Let's move around the map in slightly different patterns. We do manage to get an early advantage by denying Nintendo some damage.
Oh,
good
nice
play. They've got Nintendo back. They're going to carry on chasing. Ignite is ticking away. The third proc of Silver Bolts was not activated. Nintendo survives with their cell division, but forced to flash.
Death Sentence into a wall stun looked really cool, and it did burn the flash away from Nintendo, which just allows Meteos to pretty much continue farming for fun. We really need to see, though, how the other side of the turret push is going, because that's a 1v2 lane Balls has been in this whole time. He's not letting much turret damage happen.
Don't Mash Me has managed to get some time to bash this one away as the mini wave is about to die. Down to about 60-odd%, and I guess if he remains unchecked, they may be able to get a little bit more damage down on that tower. Israel, with a little more range than Vayne, makes life a little safer and more secure.
And with the Vayne pick, it does look like Cloud9 is trying to extend the laning phase even just a little bit. They don't want to have Vayne having to lane against Ezreal early, so they're in these 2v2 lanes.
Nintendo comes back with a vengeance. He slingshots himself in. Elimination, not content with being dropped to 150 HP, lands the death sentence. Sneaky continues landing the attack damage. He's got no mana though. A play throws them both backwards. Now Sneaky, a little bit out of position, takes the barrier down. He may be able to get first blood. A double slice and dice from Zion Spartan throws him to safety. Now Sneaky is dropped low. Another flay pulls him backwards. Cell division gets popped. First blood is picked up by Zac. Sneaky's going to try to capitalize and get one in reply, but Zion Spartan, resourceless, his charges cooldowns available, and Sneaky backs away.
They were pushing the limits in that 2v2. The minions actually finished off Elimination after Zach's passive had activated, and Zion Spartan got away with a sliver with that quick slice and dice away. What was the most key in that fight, though, was how Sneaky was out of mana and could not tumble at any point during that fight, which is what ended up being the difference in that long, drawn-out 2v2.
Elimination has hit every single skill shot he fired in that bottom lane. It wasn't enough to save his life, though, and they are forced backwards. The mid lane is also going in favor of Shifter right now. He's level 5 to his opponent's level 5 as well, but he's got a massive amount of HP more, even though the CS is even, and he's actually forced high to back.
Yeah, that is a really great play by Shifter. We know Zed is his favorite champion for the most part when he plays in mid lane. Coast hasn't been able to play it to much success recently, but laning straight up against High could be a great start for Coast, especially since they need to find ways to win without Zion Spartan carrying.
Yeah, ninja on ninja action, and right now Shifter is backed away, come back to lane. He's picked himself up a large number of wards. Actually, if you look down the Coast items, that's a lot of sight wards that they've secured. They're definitely afraid of Meteos making plays and trying to set up ganks.
Which is a little surprising because Meteos' play on Nasus isn't really about ganking. It's about walking into lanes and just being very brute about it. He doesn't have to do creative things. If anything, those wards are going to give them maybe better dragon control or counter invade control, but I don't necessarily think it's for stopping ganks.
We'll see how well they position them and how they make use of the resource that has been given to them. One kill up, Coast only 100 gold ahead though, even though that first blood was secured. And in general, it does appear that Cloud9 have got slightly superior form, especially because of Nintendo's very low numbers. 13 creeps at this point in the game. All of that pressure and time spent in the bottom is really put him behind.
The great thing about it, though, is he did get the kill at the end of the day. So if you compare his gold directly with Meteos, he's even, which evens out the game. He got denied in farm, he was pressured a lot, but he got the kill to get it back.
Meteos is going to come in right from behind. They put the pressure down in Daydream, and Daydream immediately says, I'll take one for the team, I am going down. Just as, you know, we're talking about all the vision and whatnot, Meteos just walks into lane.
It was like, remember how we said Meteos isn't going to be sneaky? He was actually really sneaky there. He came all the way through the Coast jungle to pull that one off.
Deathmark goes down onto High. The red dot is there. It's not going to be enough to drop them, though. It's actually Shifter goes forward. Ignite is ticking. 100 HP. It's going to be enough. 2 kills to 1. Coast with an immediate reply.
High could have gotten out of that one. He actually went back in because he never got a stun from his Cannon ult, and he thought he was so safe that he could just be a little cheeky about it. But Shifter had saved his second Shadow from his W, got the second gap close, and just finished off High.
So well played by Shifter to show those Zed mechanics. Down in the bottom lane, Zion Spartan takes a lot of damage without really trading even. Elimination got the shield off and blocked a lot of that Cull the Meek. We do see the blue buff being taken, this time by Meteos actually. So High's not going to be able to secure that resource, and that'll just help Meteos in clearing his jungle a little quicker.
And that's actually a very underrated buff on Nasus. He spends so much mana maxing Spirit Fire, which is actually why you see most jungle Nasuses build that Crystalline Flask to keep their mana up. The blue buff's going to help him clear even faster.
Zion Spartan gets pinned against the wall, forced to throw down that ultimate. Dominus is up, but Sneaky wants to dominate him. Ignite tick secures the kill. And Elimination and Sneaky, they've got Zion Spartan's number.
And that was close to, if not the last Ignite tick, because that was a very early Ignite. Elimination didn't want to end up stealing that kill, but just because of the way it worked out, it fell to him. Still a great play by Cloud9, asserting their dominance, keeping Zion Spartan down like every other team is focused to. 23 minion kills and a death at 9 minutes is not the way you help him carry a game.
And that definitely could have been high. Elimination of Sneaky have comboed their crowd control in their lane so incredibly well. Flays into death sentences, into condemns, just preventing anybody from doing anything. They secure the tower as well as now applying pressure on this dragon.
Yeah, Cloud9 really has amazing synergy between Sneaky and Elimination. No matter the combo, they seem to just really work together. And this is the second reason Meteos loves Nasus, because you press your ultimate and the dragon dies almost immediately. Even though that was a whole team going to it, the speed at which that was taken down was a little bit accelerated.
Team Coast are going to try to even up at least that global objective by securing the top tower, but in general, it's Cloud9 that come out in the superior position. They've got the first tower of the game, the first dragon of the game. They got a couple of kills on the board as well. They're looking pretty solid right now, especially with Meteos having double the CS of Nintendo. Even though he's got that kill and assist, he's still a little bit behind.
Yeah, he has not kept up with what Meteos has been doing, which is a common theme amongst all junglers in North America, because Meteos has been dominating this league, and it's actually a straightforward style. He just always makes good decisions.
So Good decision making, keeping them in the lead. We'll see if Cloud9 can maintain that and how they actually react to the top tower and bottom towers being down for opposite teams. High has immediately responded by saying, well, I think I'll have a better chance in this bottom lane. And he's moved down, and it looks as though they've sent balls on Elise to the mid lane. So a couple of swaps here for Cloud9.
Yeah, Cloud9 has always been very fluid with where they send their solo laners. They'll go wherever. It's reflected in the picks. You think about Kennen, he's a side or mid laner. It's only Elise in the mid lane that's a little bit counterintuitive, but what Balls can do is he can dodge out of a lot of Shifter's potential spike damage, which is what High is worried about right now. If he goes for the death mark, he's going to repel up and sit there for 2 seconds, so he won't be able to get damage in during death mark.
Talking about all those trades, we see that Coast on the other end, they've moved their dual lane to the mid as well, so just throw them in there and see how well they can handle it. They've actually started to move themselves towards this top lane to counter the pressure that's being applied. The control that sneaky elimination now want to keep on Zion Spartan. Another great stun, locks him up against the turret, but Daydreaming has jumped in. The Crescendo is available, so keep that in mind if they want to pick any fights.
Yeah, Zion Spartan got back up, but once again, because Zion Spartan got back up, it leaves a hole elsewhere in Coast, and like usual, Cloud9 is there to pull people back towards them.
Got a lot of damage onto that mid turret, down to about 50%, and Balls has been able to fend off these constant wave pushes that Shift has been applying in this bottom lane, and that tower's still looking very, very healthy right now. High just doing the best he can to farm up, and the pace of the game has slowed down a little bit now that jungler's on it as involved.
It's a little bit less of a turret game than we generally see from Cloud9 because this is a slightly different composition from Cloud9. Once again, Sneaky wants some time before he powers up and really starts becoming that hyper carry that Vayne can be. And also, Cloud9 is a little bit worried about Shifter Zed, so they're just taking it a little bit easier in this early game, knowing how difficult the early game was against Velocity.
Taking a look back at that top lane, their sentence doesn't catch out Zion Spartan. He's eaten so many of them already. He's about 30 creeps behind his opponent, his opposite number Balls. Also doing relatively well in this bottom lane, and Tendude just slingshot himself into the river. Just try to close the gap as quickly as possible. He does have Let's Bounce available, but Meteos is in close proximity, so if anything were to go down, it would be an immediately 2-on-2.
I wonder what's going to happen here with Nintendo because this is a 2v2 that Cloud9 wants.
Shifter just gets popped. Repel gets used as Balls throws himself in there. Now Shifter's on the wrong side of the river. He's heading to his opponent's territory. The Wither goes down, that slows his movement. Now the Spirit Fire out. He finally forced a flash. And it does look like he's managed to get away for the time being. Doesn't look like Balls is able to chase as he's burned his flash as well. So good defensive reactive play from Shifter.
Yeah, but up top we see the duo once again trying to dive Zion Spartan.
Sneaky's the one that's tanking the turret hits though. They're going to try carrying focusing down. There's no more minions left as Zion Spartan is AoE them. The Crescendo locks them both up as the True Shot Barrage comes in. Downtown Elimination. Ignite is burning away. Dominus is timed out from Zion Spartan in just a moment, and he's going to try get in range as the Flay slows him down. Now High is moving up through the river as well. Might be able to close him off. The Lantern is there. High's going to click it. Not this time. He flashes forward. Slicing Maelstrom is up. Ignite is ticking. The Crocodile gets pulled backwards. He gets dropped as Elimination secures his second kill of the game. High's looking for the stun. Lands it on Daydreaming. Has the energy. Carries on chasing. Is he going to dive this one? The tower is up. Going to carry on looking for those cooldowns. Decides to back away.
Still a very action-packed fight there for Cloud9 and Coast. Zion Spartan being the martyr really for Coast, trying to create action. Does create a kill for the team, but it was answered essentially by Lemonation. I'd still say that was good for Coast since 2-kill Lemonation doesn't turn into much late game.
I'm going to be able to get those aura items a little quicker, but you really want that on Sneaky's Vayne or even High's Cannon. It would have been superior. High's going to carry on pushing up this lane, gets a good stun down onto Nintendo Dex, and a lot of damage without really taking anything in reply, but without his ultimate or ignite, it's not really in kill potential.
He needs to be a little bit careful after that first fight, and I am curious where High's going to be going with this build because he could be doing the hybrid cannon we've seen a little bit of. He's double Dorans with a cloth armor, which could be turning into a Seeker's arm guard. And I'll check his runes in a second to see if he's got the dual pen, because we have seen like a Blade of the Ruined King, Zanya's cannon build that really just has dual class ability.
So we'll see what it does decide to buy. Picked up that Needlessly Large Rod as well as Sorcerer's Shoes, so I would imagine maybe going to work himself towards that Hourglass a little bit more traditional, as it were. Right now, though, he's going to just return to lane, and that's a very big power spike. He was doing all of that damage and sitting on 2.5 grand. This is a big vamp up for him.
Yeah, he is actually at least have hybrid runes on Kennen. And with the double Dorans, it's giving a substantial amount of AD. He actually maxed W first on Kennen as well to take more advantage of his early game AD. And I want to see how he team fights with that, because it's a different style. You're not as all in, more playing on the boundaries.
We do see some other items have been completed. The Tiamat secured for Zion Spartan, once again going for that damage build on Renekton. He does tend to get more damage first before building defensive items, and I guess if he's creating the fights, it can work, and will also help him farm up the waves clearly.
And as long as we're talking about the Tiamat there on Zion Spartan, this is something he's done before against Elise, because he wants to be able to duel Elise, but then in that game, he fell apart in team fights because he got focused by Air Effect damage.
Nintendo Dex has been caught up by the Cocoon. He's bouncing up in the air, got that extra tenacity to get away safely, but that's a very important cooldown taken away thanks to a good Cocoon that's landed. The rest of Cloud9 have applied even more damage to this mid turret, and it seems to be the focus for them right now.
They definitely have control of the game, and they're trying to go back and get more, as we have a quick little pause coming into us. But Cloud9 in control right now, multiple dragons. They do have teamfight initiation probably, and I think they're just not rushing things in this game, even though they have the ability to turn it on whenever.
So 3,000 gold lead. We do know that the problem is related to Zion Spartan's hardware, so we should hopefully be able to get this one resolved very, very quickly. Look at Focus and the tech guys are there, so we'll get this cleared up very quickly. And it's been a back and forth game that Coast are actually trading as far as champion kills are concerned, but they're not keeping up as far as golden items, thanks to losing out in CS and being a little bit more on the back foot. They've been a bit more defensive in their play style.
And that just has to go with everyone against Cloud9 ends up playing a little bit defensive, especially for a team like Coast, who may be lacking a little bit in confidence after losing 5 games in a row. It's really tough to shake losing streaks in this league, and they went tier on Don't Mash Me, so think about the Blue Ezreal already having to scale up in the long run. And Nintendo Dex has been getting outmaneuvered in the early game by Meteos, so if your jungler's getting outmaneuvered, it's very hard for your whole team to come back.
We'll see how well he is able to come back, if at all, because at the very least he does have a kill and an assist on the board. I believe that we're getting the ready call, so we should be back into this one very, very shortly. And you know, something that Coast, it's playing on their mind. They're currently 7-11 as far as wins and losses, and they were 7-6 not too long ago. It's a big, big difference. So there we go. We are back into the matchup. So welcome back to this one. Sneaky and High putting this pressure down in this mid lane. It looks like the rest of Cloud9 have backed away after that brief pause.
It's the patience right now, and if we've seen balls in the past on Elise, he's actually hoping someone goes to 1v1 him, because that's exactly what he wants to do once he gets those penetration items on Elise.
He's got enough damage to at least out-duel some of the champions on Coast. Right now, the rest of the Cloud9 members, they're keeping up this focus on this mid lane. They've stacked up 4 members. They're going to get on this tower, and it looks like Coast is just going to give this one up.
Once Coast had Shifter off in the top lane trying to split push, they basically conceded that mid turret, and the persistence of Cloud9 is what granted them the turret. Shifter's
going to need a very important presence in his team fights. He's looked pretty good in this matchup, and the few times we've seen those little jewels with him, he's gotten away with his life in situations where he's been jumped on, and I guess if he can burst down an important target like Sneaky's Vayne, that could be the team fight winning moment for Team Coast. And pretty soon, Sneaky's actually going to be the only target which he can burst down. Once High gets Zhonya's, he will be able to Zhonya's off the Deathmark damage, and Balls is just going to be able to repel anyway. So it actually becomes a very difficult game for Shifter Zed if there's only one priority target he's really going for. Ticking time bomb before his impact is going to be negated. And we'll see how effectively he can pull that one up. Elimination is going to spot out Shifter and just tell the rest of his team, hey, somebody's here. We've already seen him try to set up a lantern gank at least once, so we know he's got the ability to do so. He's got himself that Philosopher's Stone thanks to those double kills that he's picked up fairly early, and nothing too exciting being picked up by any of these teams outside of that Tiamat, but it's something we've seen Zion Spartan do many times. I think he just likes those dueling champions. Yeah, and we can get into the Tiamat a little bit more specifically on Renekton. Renekton's W usually locks him out for about half a second after the stun, but if you Tiamat, you actually cancel that animation and get more hits in. So we do see the Deathmark has gone down. Sneaky's thrown off that ultimate barrier is up, and he just gets popped. As now Elimination is under pressure. Unstable Matter is going to drop his HP low, and he's going to buy enough time to get in range for Meteos. Now Meteos throws down the Wither. There's no slingshot available, and Let's Bounce has already been used, so Nintendo Dex is going to be the sacrificial lamb here. They've traded 1 for 1. Crescendo locks up 3. That's going to be enough to pick up a kill now onto Elimination as High throws down the slicing Maelstrom. He has bounced one back. They're trading back and forth. Nintendo Dex has been able to respawn thanks to Cell Division. Slingshot is fired. He pulls the trigger and lands on Meteos, throwing him up into the air like a meteor before he flashes over the wall. Now High is on the retreat. He's run out of energy. Keep that in mind. It's slowly recharging. He's going to dodge away from the Mystic shots as the Wither goes down into Sona. That wasn't the target. High does not have his flash available, but now he's turned on the offensive.
Oh, no!
True Shot Barrage goes completely the wrong way. Don't mash me. Don't fire that way or you're going to go down. He definitely didn't want that one.
Another long and very eventful fight for Cloud9 as High just about picks up a double off the back of that fight, but High got greedy in that fight. When they activated Nintendo Dex's passive, they could have stuck around and finished, but instead he flashed over the wall to try and get more, and it allowed Nintendo Dex to respawn. Cloud9 still taking a bit of an edge off that fight, but I think it could have been a little better.
So we do see now that thanks to the kills they've secured, Sneaky is going to put some damage onto this top lane tower. Zion Spartan throws down Dominus. That's a flash away from Balls, and he actually decides to back away. So Zion Spartan with the Ghost and the ulti just backs off, realizing he's got no vision.
Balls is going to wait for the right moment, but Zion does go down and catch Balls, going for a fight.
Slice has been used. Dice is available, I think, so we'll see if he's going to get away from it. Instead, decides to put more damage down to Lemonation. That's a 2-2-1 Lemon. He's been locked up. The slow is out. Dropped down to 400 HP, and thanks to that Sightstone, going to have the additional HP required to survive.
Very drawn out fight there. Lemon Nation taking just enough hits to kind of let the rest of Cloud9 walk away. I want to see if Coast tries to put any pressure on the mid turret after that one, but it seems like they're just going to back away once again.
So they're going to slow this one down. They were happy with that top lane tower, going to spend some of the money that they've earned, start to pick up even more items. The rest of Coast, however, they've stacked up. They've got their ice set on their second tower of the game. And they get the mid lane tower low, but it's not a tower kill, so therefore they don't get the gold or the experience.
Once again, Meteos is wearing that blue buff, and the Spirit Fire spam onto these waves again and again is just making it increasingly difficult for Coast to push down these towers.
Maxed out Spirit Fire, and he's actually maxing out his Siphoning Strike second over that Wither, so, you know, just interesting thing to point out. Spirit Fire very effective in containing his team, and we'll see if he can do it again, as Coast, once again, they really want this tower. They really want to try and open up that portion of the map from Cloud9.
And I think it's necessary, especially with Shifter's target selection in teamfights getting limited with the completion of that Zhonya's Hourglass by High. Coast needs to be able to find small fights for Shifter to participate in where his Zed Assassination and Split Push can really come in. You're not going to have successful Split Push if you don't have any turrets down, which is why that mid turret is so key.
We'll see whether or not Coast can take it down or how long it's going to take them. If they do manage to get a good engagement, because they have had pretty good fights, but in general, Cloud9 are able to just trump them, get that extra one-up, and just turn something in their favor. Once again, Coast, they still have 3 or 4 members in this mid lane, while the rest of Cloud9 are in their respective solo lanes, picking up more creeps and extending that gold lead even further.
And that gold lead ticking up and up has to be on the minds of Coast. Even though they don't get to see those pretty numbers that we do, they sense that they're getting out-farmed, which is putting some pressure on Coast to initiate before they're ready for it, and it might just make them walk into a bad situation or a good situation, because Cloud9 going into this Dragon is forcing Coast to come at them.
And that Dragon just got destroyed. Yeah. Meteos is looking to pick himself a fight here, running towards the members of Coast. They managed to get away safely, so another Dragon secured for Cloud9. They extend that gold lead to about 6 or so thousand. Zion Spartan has caught himself up in CS. He was a little bit behind Balls as Elise, but thanks to the fact that his team is playing defensively, he's managed to close that gap significantly. He's only 10 behind.
And he's been able to get a lot of that side lane farm, the free lane farm that all these teams talk about. COG gives it to Doublelift. Most teams give it, like you can give it to Zed or mid laner. Right now, Coast is giving it to Zion Spartan because they want him to carry, and Cloud9 is giving it to Sneaky this game.
Crucially, seeing Sneaky pick that one up. He's playing a hard carry champion like Vayne, and you know, it's something that we always highlight and talk about, how Sneaky makes do without gold. Now we see Nintendo eats a cocoon, manages to sidestep away from the death sentence, and is able to walk away with his life.
And this is just a continuation of Cloud9 playstyle, maybe waiting until High can find the right ultimate to go, but as long as Sneaky's not with the team, I'm not expecting Cloud9 to really go all in. They're mainly just playing a defensive style until Sneaky gets that side lane pushing.
We do see that he's at least got a siege minion with him in that top lane now, so that's going to help out with the with the control of those minion waves, soak up some damage. Me just throws that Wither down onto Zion Spartan, and again, he's playing that interference role. He's making it look like, hey, we might go, we might go. Wither's down. I'm running at you. Make a move. And at least if Coast are always reacting, they can never pick an engagement on their terms.
Yeah, Meteos has presence as a jungler right now. Everyone knows where he is, and everyone respects where he's moving. Even though he's 0-0-2, the way he moves and the respect he garners because of almost his history in this league now and just his power in this game is controlling Coast.
We'll see whether or not Coast can actually regain control. They need to find some way to get hold of the reins and take charge. Shifter just manages to put the ward down and does manage to survive. Not taken out just yet. Going to reveal the positions of Cloud9 as they take away the Wolf camp. And right now they may be bashing head to head.
Because Sneaky was able to go back and complete some items. He picked up the Static Shiv instead of the Phantom Dancer. Almost every Vayne goes Phantom Dancer, but Sneaky, if we go through his history of games, he doesn't like that item. He thinks Static Shiv is way better just because the stats are close and the active for wave clear and spike damage is just superior. So that's the reason he chose that path on Vayne.
And we'll see how well it works out for him. He's also picked up the makings of what maybe even looks like a Zeal. We'll see what that decides to get upgraded to.
He'll probably just build the Phantom Dancer as well.
So gonna get both. Gonna prove us all wrong and see, hey, never enough crits or movement speed or attack speed. 5-5 in terms of kills. It's a 7,000 gold difference. Cloud9 have stacked themselves up as a 5-man unit in this mid lane. And if any of those skill shots land, there may be a fight. Nintendo just jumped himself in, and he just gets popped like flubber. The Crescendo locks up both Lemonation and Balls, but Sneaky has been able to get away safely. Forced to throw down that final hour and flash away. That's 2 kills of the fight immediately in favor of Cloud9, and they've lost next to no life.
And even though it didn't look like High's Cannon Ultimate locked anyone down, it zoned the fight. It meant Zion Spartan and Nintendo Dex were the only 2 in, and the rest of Coast could not follow. It allowed the quick, easy 2-0 for Cloud9 and the continuation of this push.
Nintendo Dude is not tanky at all. He's not a sponge of damage. He's so much of a balloon of damages. Right now, Cloud9 still grouped up as 5. 10 seconds on the clock. They jump onto Don't Mash Me. The Wither is on, and Don't Mash Me is just going to get shredded. Throws up the cleanse. Survives a couple seconds longer before Balls drops in the background. The inhibitor tower was dropped, and it looks like they're going to get the inhibitor. Sneaky carries on chasing. Daydreaming gets popped by that Static Shiv.
Just the extra 100 magic damage that came in at the end of that scared Daydreaming. They got an inhibitor off of that. After a seemingly small amount of action, Cloud9 was just like, oh, by the way, we've been winning this game by a lot for a while, and now we're taking advantage of it.
And making sure that they can demonstrate how to take advantage of that 6, 7, 8,000 gold lead. They forced down objectives, they grouped up as a team, and they used that item advantage in their favor. Right now, High is defending the bottom lane tower while Coast are in mid.
And Coast is a little bit forced into doing something here. They don't have the items, but they recognize that they're down so much and that Cloud9 is on a retreat temporarily. So Coast wanted to do something just there, but they didn't pounce on any opportunity, and now they're allowing Cloud9 to go back shop and come back.
So very importantly for Coast, thanks to the time that Cloud9 is spent shopping, the Manamune has been completed for Don't Mash Me, and that this modified blue Ezreal does still take time to scale up. He's about 100 mana away from getting that completed to a Mirror Mana, and it's going to help a little bit, but they are very far behind right now.
They need a lot more, and Don't Mash Me definitely needs to get Iceborne Gauntlet before he can even consider having an impact here, but the problem is as well, he needs Iceborne Gauntlet and Last Whisper. Don't Mash Me is at least 4, maybe 5,000 gold away from being at the item build he really needs, and with the way he's getting starved out of the map because Cloud9 is keeping all the waves pushed and corralling Coast into their base, is just not giving him the opportunity to get that farm.
And look at the massive differences as far as the gold is concerned. 7,000 on Zion Spartan in the top lane, 1,600 behind Balls. The mid lane is 2,000 gold difference between them. The jungle is 2,500. That is a massive, massive disparity between these two teams. And when you've got that very big item lead, you get that window of safety, where even if you have a bad fight, because you're so far ahead, you've got the extra HP and the extra tankiness or damage to get through it.
Yeah, you get multiple fights, as we saw in the last game between TSM and Vulcan. TSM actually lost a fight and a Baron, but then still had enough accumulated advantage from prior in the game that they could win a fight later in the game. So Cloud9 kind of playing with house money right now, able to take more risks.
We'll see how well they can take that out. Red buff is on Sneaky. That is a very big hit on Shifter. He's going to go in. He's got stealthed up. Deathmark goes down. Shifter is going to be able to go backwards, and that's going to pop. Not going to be enough. Well played, Sneaky.
thought that was really interesting there for Sneaky. As soon as Zed ulted him, instead of clicking around as he was targeting and maybe losing tracker vision towards the brush, Sneaky just pressed S. He stopped on the spot inside the brush so that when Shifter showed himself once again, there'd be no way for him to avoid Sneaky's damage, and he picked up a clean 1v1 kill.
Very well played, and just really showing an understanding of the mechanics of Vayne and mechanics of Zed, his opponent, realizing what he can do to make it work. He does have that zeal as well as that critical hit cloak completed, so gonna pick up a Phantom Dancer on top of that static shift. The death sentence does land. They've thrown themselves over the wall. Zion Spartan is the first target now. In the background, Daydreaming just gets destroyed. He got the crescendo off. It's not going to be enough. High with the double kill. Meteos is going to throw out the Wither. He flashes forward. Not going to be in range for the siphoning strike, but Ezreal is just forced to flash away. Don't mash me, screaming, please don't mash me in the fight, and he gets away cleanly.
Just no chance in that one. They were already down Shifter Zed, and once Lemon Nation landed the death sentence and flew himself in for the box, it was just a steamroll fight for Cloud9, picking up their second inhibitor of the game.
Second inhibitor down. Sneaky's going to try and lifesteal off this Wolf Camp, denying even more resources, and Cloud9 have just had Coast's number when it comes to their jungle. And we're talking about Cloud9 or TSM securing their second blue buff. Cloud9 have been doing exactly the same this matchup. Their second objective. Now they're going to jump back onto Shifter. The Flay goes down. He throws up that death mark, uses it to get to safety, but jumping onto the shadow behind and at least gets out cleanly.
That was a really clever high Zanya's right there. On top of a lantern just to skedaddle out of there right at the end. They're going to disrupt some recalls with that Ezreal ultimate, but I think this is prolonging the inevitable doom of Coast Team.
The inevitable doom. That's some harsh words, but true words. Double super minions being, pushed into their base. There's one tower left on the top lane. And I imagine Cloud9 would have this sight set on that. Get all of the outer towers down and then progress maybe to finish the game. Alternatively, they're in a very good position to try and take Baron. Balls get slowed by Daydreaming Sona. They're going to carry on chasing. This is a lot of investment onto Balls' Elise. He's going to switch to Spider Form, continues the chase. He's going to have Repel up in just a moment.
Like going
to throw himself back up. He does go up in the air, but the chase is on. Balls is taking them for a walk. Now, Thresh is getting close. The Lantern may land. Can he get to it? He flashes. He lanterns out. Oh my word, Balls is alive. They catch Zion Spartan. They pick up a kill. Ring-a-ring-a Posey, and they just pick up the kill. Like, well played.
That's a backbreaker right there. You can't have a 4v1 chase like that get turned around and be happy about it. That was a great play by Balls. I thought he was dead to rights. Lemon Nation was so far away when that chase started. No way I thought Balls was going to be able to maneuver around and stay alive, but he used his repel just right, flashed onto a lantern, and got it.
And the 10-dude X throws himself over his opponent's team. The slingshot does not land. He tries to bounce himself up and around. Not going to be enough. Shifter's the first to fall. Sneaky squashes the glue. Now turns his attention to Don't Mash Me. The tower goes down, the inhibitor in the background. Sneaky 5-2-3. Cloud9 demonstrating diversity in their champion comps, and even playing this one a little different to what we used to.
Not even thinking about the Baron because they knew they had a big enough lead already. Coach is going to try one final fight, but this looks like the next is going down.
Zion Spartan may need to play a little bit more fish champions because he ate so many hooks that game. It was just finished over and over and over. Completely well played by Cloud9 from the very early game. There were moments of greatness from Coast, but in general, it was all Cloud9.
That was business as usual for Cloud9. They brought in the Vayne. At the end of the day, they played first game and last game today. Didn't seem to phase them the long time in between matches. Again, total domination. Meteos didn't die, 1-0-11, just improving his KDA even more. They play so smart every game.
The decision-making as individuals and as a team is just on another level. It's something that we're not seeing out of really any other team in the LCS, because it doesn't matter what comp they play, it doesn't matter what position they're in, they don't make